First segment of the show, we're going to talk about MLB's arbitration process. What is it? What are my thoughts on it? And just have a little conversation about what goes down when these MLB teams are deciding whether to settle or take a player to an arbitration hearing. I had some buddies reach out asking about this. What is it? What do you think about it? So figured I'd bring it to Diamond Discourse and we'll talk about it here today. So let's talk about what is arbitration in MLB. We'll start here. So there was an article drop from the sportingnews.com. So Joe Rivera, sportingnews.com, shout out to you, broke down arbitration. So I'm just going to kind of go through this article, give my opinions on it. We'll talk a little bit about maybe some of the players that are going to be having an arbitration hearing in February when things kind of get going in that department. So let's start with what is arbitration in baseball. Arbitration is what happens when a player and a team cannot agree on a salary for the upcoming season. A hearing is held between the club and the player. It is heard by an independent arbiter, and that person will rule in favor of either the player or the club. Okay, so what is it? Arbitration is essentially teams present their case for why a player is worth X amount of dollars. The player, his team, his agent, they present a number why he's worth Y. And if the teams can't meet somewhere in that middle, then they go to arbitration and one or the other will be picked as the victor, and that will be the salary for the player in the upcoming season. Now, who is eligible? Well, MLB salary arbitration is reserved for players who have at least 3 years of MLB service time and are not yet eligible for unrestricted free agency. That is earned, of course, after 6 years of MLB service. So there are contract renewal periods, and then you get to the arbitration years. And then, of course, after the arbitration years is when you can test free agency. That's why the mega deals get handed out to the 26, 27-year-olds. They come up when they're 19, 20. Most players, when they first hit free agency, they could be anywhere from 28 to 30. But that's why Juan Soto got so much money. That's why Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is projected to see at least $500 million in 2025. So they're of course have run their arbitration year. So those are the players that are eligible for it. Now, there is this exception. There is a certain cases where players reach a certain level of service time early, and that's known as a Super 2 player. What is a Super 2 player? A Super 2 player is a Super 2 player is a player who has more than 2 but fewer than 3 years of MLB service time. That's time spent on the 25-man roster or the injured list, but ranks as a top 22% but ranks in the top 22nd percentile of service time. That's, I don't know. We don't really get into that. So Super 2 player is something else. Now, my thoughts on arbitration. I guess as this show hopefully takes off, maybe I can get some contacts, get some sources, talk to some people more in the know. I just don't understand what leads a team to not want to make a player happy while he's under your control. Of course, it seems the teams that cheap out more often than not are the teams that typically take their player to an arbitration hearing. Most settle. We'll talk about some of the players that are going to be they're going to have an arbitration hearing next month and what the numbers, the difference of numbers is, because it's shockingly close almost every single time. So for me, I just don't understand why. That is something I want to learn. I can help you with the what. I can help you with the who. The why, I'm not sure. I don't understand. Me as a team builder, it feels like an advantageous move to allow the player a little bit of leeway in what their number is. Now, of course, there's a negotiation factor. Maybe that has something to do with it. The teams that aren't willing to negotiate pre-arbitration just say, screw it, we'll take it to arbitration. But there are always the reports that come out. It gets nasty in there. I mean, teams will use everything to make sure that they aren't paid at the level the player wants and the agent wants and the team wants. I mean, the franchise is going to do its thing to protect what it feels is the right amount of money to offer. I don't know why. Well, maybe we'll deep line. And if you're checking out Diamond Discourse and you can put me in contact with someone in the know, someone that wants to talk, you do it off the record. It'll be like a source or anything. I just want to know from my own person. I want to know why these teams feel the need to do this. So Let's talk about some of the benefits of salary arbitration. So players on their rookie contracts really don't have any leverage when it comes to their salary most years, but when they get to the arbitration eligible years, they do get a chance to set a salary to see where it fits. Arbitration eligible players are more fairly paid for their contributions to their major league squad, and for the first time have a say in their salary. So they get the chance to present to the team why they're worth X amount of money. So that, of course, is the benefit towards the players of salary arbitration. Some of the cons, some of the things that go against salary arbitration, according to this article. Again, shout out Joe Rivera here on sportingnews.com, an article from a couple years ago. Arbitration can be messy. It's a vicious process, as I mentioned. Teams are trying to prove that the player is worth less than what he believes he's worth, while players are trying to earn a raise in the 3 years leading up to free agency. Now, he also quotes that there are a number of players that have been outspoken on this process, kind of talking shit about their team and why they have this desire to place negativity upon their player in efforts to save them some money. Now, let's use that as a chance to pivot. Because you probably think to yourself, what are the money differences? What are the players asking for? Is it crazy? Are they completely out of bounds? I would argue that they're not. When you look at the arbitration filings, the players that will go to arbitration with their franchise, when you look at the numbers, there is a range of which they're kind of both sitting at. So they are, in my opinion, presenting numbers in good faith. Now, you look at who is going to arbitration. This isn't just small market dependent. There are big market names here. It's not just teams looking for shave some money off the top. There's a number of reasons why, and some of them I'll kind of speculate on as well. I don't mind speculating here on Diamond Discourse. This is an opinion show, take show, more than is a reporting show. I don't have sources. Maybe one day I do, but right now I don't. So let's talk about some of the known players, what they're filing and what their teams are filing. So let's start at the top. Kyle Tucker. Kyle Tucker is proposing that he should receive $17 million in 2025. The Cubs are presenting 15. So this is the biggest difference of cash in between in terms of projected and asked, or whatever you call it, player versus team. This makes zero sense. If you are the Chicago Cubs, you've just traded, your your just last first round pick plus to bring in Kyle Tucker. Now, of course, the reason why it wasn't the biggest haul of the offseason was because he's due to be free agent next year. And the rumors are he is going to want $500 million. And maybe he can get that with another strong performance in 2025. Why, if you're the Cubs, already plant that seed of us versus you to a guy you're hoping negotiates with you in good faith? Now, maybe behind the scenes they realize it's going to be a dogfight regardless, so let's save $2 million up front. But just on the surface, you see this, you go, $2 million for an MLB franchise is chump change. He is undoubtedly their best player, making him happy, setting the tone, wanting to prioritize winning starts at the top. It feels to me like this isn't a winning move for the Cubs. Now, you look throughout some of the most noted names, they don't have a lot of filings. This isn't a squad or an organization that drags everyone to arbitration. So to take your best player, a player that theoretically you'd want to start laying some groundwork of good faith negotiation, of compromise, of all this, why take him to arbitration for $2 million? Makes no sense to me. So that's the most notable name. Nathaniel Lowe from the newly acquired Nathaniel Lowe for the Nationals. He filed for 11.1. The team filed for 10.3. In that regard, I kind of think it makes sense. He's new to the team. He's new to the organization. It is about $1 million you could save. So you kind of want to set the tone there. I kind of understand that when you look, there's not a lot of high-profile filings from Washington, so they were just kind of making their mark known. Michael King, having one of the best seasons he's had in his career last year, is asking for 8.8. The Padres are asking 7.3. Now, the difference there, the arbitration there, it just seems to me there's all this happenings going on with ownership with the Padres. What are they going to do? How do they want to attack and plan for the future, starting with ownership, rumors of selling, all this stuff. and they're clearly looking to shed some salary. They are a team that is kind of up against it after signing Bogarts and Machado and Tatis and trading for Cease and bringing in Yu Darvish. And there's a lot of big money tied up in this organization. They're looking to shed some dollars. You've heard rumors of Luis Arraez being on the move, or potentially even Dylan Cease. They're looking to make a trade, shed some salary. So that's kind of what I'm seeing here. William Contreras was taken to arbitration, 6.5. He's asking, the team's wanting 5.6. This one makes no sense to me. Milwaukee, he's been one of their best offensive players. He's been one of the most productive catchers in the league. Feels like to me you couldn't settle on 6. You couldn't settle on 6.1. Maybe Contreras and his team wasn't going to settle. So there is that as well. Luis Ravigio from the LA Angels. He's asked for 5.95. The team's asked for 5.8. So this is how close that they can be and still go to arbitration. Now, it looks like the Angels are a team this year, at least, are very okay with the arbitration hearing. I mean, they have 3 players on this top 12 list, the most of pretty much any other squad. Duran, now this is the one I want to talk about real quick. Jarren Duran, he's filing for $4 million. The Sox are filing for 3.5. To me, this sounds like a team trying to humble a player. He's had his ups, he's had his downs. As a pro, there was that suspension for kind of the obscenities he yelled out to the crowd during last season, and of course that will be something that they bring up to win the arbitration case. So they will get dirty. To me, this is kind of like a statement of, you think you're the big dog, you haven't earned the big dog stripes yet. We're going to take you to hear arbitration for $500,000. It seems more of a statement of people than it is a statement of game planning of baseball. So we'll take it as it is and we'll see how it goes. But that seemed to me, this is their only big their big profile filing. So it seemed to me, coming off a career year, give them $4 million, give them 3.8, whatever you got to settle. Only player didn't settle with. They settled with Houck. They settled with Crochet. They settled with Cutter Crawford. They were okay settling. They were, negotiating, except they seemed to not really be all that flexible when it comes to Duran. Now, a few other things mentioned. There are not as big a profile of players, but you see ranges of anything from $500,000, anything for 100,000. There are some pretty narrow filings here, depending on the team. And of course, you see a lot of Angels, you see some Tampa Bay Rays, Pittsburgh Pirates, smaller market teams are willing to go to battle over $400,000. This is clearly a tactic that is more deployed by one of 2 things. One of 3 things. One being what we talked about with Duran and the Sox. They're trying to humble a player. They're trying to kind of talk to the person more than they are do business on the baseball end of things. And then you on the other another team is the small market. Brought that up multiple times. The third, though, it seems to be the teams that are looking to rebuild in short order. And what stood out to me, of course, in this regard was the St. Louis Cardinals. Cardinals are filing with 3 players, 3 projected starters, 3 contributors to this team in 2025. Brendan Donovan, who has had some rumors of an extension. So maybe this is just kind of a formality. They just kind of ignored negotiating over the ARB number because they're negotiating an extension. There's Lars Nootbaar. They're about $500,000 off between their 2 sides. He's a guy that they've been hoping would be a top of the lineup bat for them. Hasn't been able to stay healthy, so it makes sense that they're willing to go to battle over $500K. And then Andre Palenti, who's been a pretty decent swingman for him last year. I know in fantasy he was even relevant at times as a streamer. So he put together a decent 2024, and he only wants $250,000 higher than what he's being presented by his team. But it seems to me that the Cardinals are looking to save where they can as they kind of head towards a rebuild. So I hope that kind of gives you a clear picture as to arbitration, what it is, who's involved. Again, and if you can help me out, let me know the why teams do this. Leave it in the comments, right down below. Leave it in the comments. Make sure you educate me on why these teams would go to battle over what seems like insignificant money, considering the coin that they bring in. So arbitration in baseball, that's what it is. That's who's involved, and that's, I guess, it's a part of the game. That's all I can kind of take from it. Feels like a unnecessary squabble amongst team and player, but here it is. That's MLB salary arbitration.